Another neat experience that I had while at the Jerusalem Center were a couple service experiences. And one of the first nights that I was at the BYU Jerusalem Center, I was standing in line, we were getting ready for dinner, and next to me was the branch president and his wife. And he and I started talking, and I was just thrilled to talk to him about missionary work, and we had a great conversation. And I later found out that he says of all the people he'd met, he'd never met anyone more enthusiastic about missionary work. And so he extended a call to me as the branch president, and that call was to be the fellowshipping zone leader. You know, in Jerusalem, in the Holy Land, we can't proselyte, we can't do missionary work. It's against the rules, it's against the laws, as I understand it. And so being a fellowshipping zone leader, we would work just with the members. And part of our calling was every Sabbath, so every Saturday morning, we would go on the buses, drive north for a while, pick up people from Tel Aviv, members that wanted to come worship at the center, and we'd bring them back to the center. And so that was an amazing experience. I went there with Cheryl. She and I would go there with a number of other people who were part of the fellowshipping zone. And what was neat is one of the people that we would bring back was a person from the Philippines. I believe he was maybe a husband of maybe a member that was living in Tel Aviv. And another student and I, his name was Danon, we got to teach this Filipino person the gospel. We taught him the missionary discussions. And it was exciting because it's like, wow, we actually get to teach. And this was legal because the person wasn't a resident of Israel or Palestine. So it was okay for us to share the gospel that way. So that was a neat service experience. Another neat service experience that we had is when I first arrived, within about a week or two, I was talking with another female student, and she, I think, had been talking with volunteers at the center who suggested that we arrange some volunteer work at a local hospital, at Augusta Victoria Hospital. And so she told me about that, and I loved the idea because I had done hospital volunteer work before I left on my mission. For about 4 years during high school. Every summer, I would go do hospital volunteer work. So anyway, I thought it was a great idea. I wanted to be a part of it. But then for whatever reason, she wasn't able to follow through with it and left me with arranging the service opportunity. So I'm like, well, okay, I'll do my best. And we actually were able to work it out so that all dozens and dozens of students could go to Augusta Victoria Hospital on a weekly basis and help out in whatever they needed help with. And one experience that I recall was going there, and we actually went to the pediatric unit, and there in the pediatric unit was a young Arabic girl who was in the dialysis unit, and she was there with her father, and I think at least one or two other students came into that room and started talking with them. We couldn't speak one another's languages. They spoke Arabic, we spoke English, but the language of compassion, we could speak that. And I just remember it being a touching experience to be able to be there with that father who I'm sure was going through a tough time with, his young daughter having to be hooked up to these machines. And she was probably like 5 or 6 years old. So it's a really young daughter. But that was a neat experience, a good service opportunity that we had at the BYU Jerusalem Center that I value a lot.